Hello everyone, today we'll be covering a lot of things and unfortunately not all of them, basically all of them are not so lighthearted. I was going to do a video yesterday, but if you've been following world news, you know that a lot of things have been happening, so I decided to wait until today. And we know that as of yesterday that the Russian military has invaded the Ukraine and it's just awful. This is the biggest attack on a European nation, I believe, since World War II. And now we're dealing with a lot of very real problems that were not a norm just a few days ago and until this happened. And in the hockey landscape, we're seeing impact as the top Ukrainian hockey league has suspended their season as the Russian government and its people obviously are focused on the defense of their country and trying to stay safe. They are not going to be watching sports potentially for a very long time. So we expected that, but it is reality now for those athletes. I know some athletes that were not part of that have been stuck there, but some have got out. And so I'm just hoping that everybody's safe. As for other hockey news, Finnish team Jokerit has announced that it will not participate in the KHL playoffs, which were supposed to start within the next week for them. This is due to the invasion of the Ukraine, and because of this, their decision, Spartak Moscow, which is another KHL team, will move on to the next round because it will be a forfeit for Jokerit. That's obviously not an easy decision for the team to make. I'm sure they lost money for that, but they've made it and they stand by their beliefs, so that is big for them to do that. And in final news that we were all kind of wondering about, it happened. NHL superstar Alex Ovechkin has made a statement about how he feels about what's happening right now and his stance on it. And the Russian native had this to say, quote, "Obviously, it's a hard situation. I have lots of friends in Russia and Ukraine, and it's hard to see the war," end quote. And then Alex would go on to tell reporters later, quote, "I hope soon it's going to be over and there's going to be peace in the whole world," end quote. He later finally added, quote, "Please no more war. It doesn't matter who is in the war. Russia, Ukraine, different countries. I think we live in a world like we have to live in peace and a great world," end quote. He was then asked in a very, very uncomfortable question, I guess, about whether or not he supported Vladimir Putin. We know in the past that he seems to be a supporter of him, but he basically avoided it, and we can see that he is on the side of peace, which is huge. And I know more people wanted him to really push it and say he was against Putin in this time of uncertainty, but you have to remember, Ovi has family in Russia. He lives in Russia for a large part of the off season, and he could really be putting his family at risk of punishment within Russia if he was to say anything that angered Vladimir Putin, because he is a big icon within Russia. He is a superstar, and you wouldn't want to put your family at risk. So even getting this response from him is really powerful. We get what he's trying to say, and I hope obviously that his family is safe as well. As for what's happening in the Ukraine, let's be honest, it is terrible. We've been relatively fortunate enough, especially in my lifetime, that we've never had to worry about a real major escalation around the world, and for a large part, for most of these countries, literal decades. But we're living in a situation now that is very tense. We all know that. I feel awful for the Ukrainian people. They're experiencing this invasion firsthand, and I know this is something the world will be focusing on around the clock. I know personally, if I'm up in the middle of the night, I check my phone, I check the news, check multiple news networks to see what's happening. And I know, unfortunately, again, lives have been lost on both sides, and it's a scary reality about that. And it's sad because governments kind of impose this to where their people die and they don't really have to face a lot of consequences. They're the ones making the decisions but not dealing with them. And for these young Russian soldiers that are supposed to be very inexperienced from what the media is saying, they were sent to do this, and I am definitely not condoning this invasion at all. But Vladimir Putin sent them there, and he's not dealing with the consequences. I'm sure his bank account is still looking nice. I'm sure that he's still living a very good life, but they are involved in this conflict. And again, obviously not condoning it, but they are dying as well as Ukrainian soldiers and civilians, and it's just terrible. And I think that that's just crazy. And I do hope in the coming days, weeks, and probably months, we see a de-escalation. And if not, unfortunately, prepare yourselves for a period of uncertainty. Over here in the U.S., we are already seeing gas prices spike up. I got out of one of my classes within an hour. It was an hour-long class. Gas had jumped up 25 cents per gallon, and I'm sure prices of other things will raise too, which makes me nervous. But while I'm nervous, I am grateful at the same time. I live in a country that is safe. We're not at war. I'm able to go to sleep at night and know with relative certainty that I'm going to be fine. The only thing I would have to worry about is somebody breaking into my apartment, but obviously this is a much bigger deal for these Ukrainian people, and obviously we're hoping for the best for them in their country. And that is all for today's video, and hopefully soon we can worry about only hockey related news. Everybody stay safe and go spend time with your loved ones, all right?